have difficulty understanding even clear messages because it's Kali Yuga. And capacities diminish, the duration of life diminishes, so many things diminish. Compassion diminishes, everything diminishes. Intelligence, memory, stature, duration of life, everything diminishes. And so what to do? So therefore, a primary means for deliverance for this particular yuga is required, because the previous yuga was what? Deity worship. And then in this yuga, it's something else. Deity worship is still during this yuga, but the yuga dharma. So the purpose of the presentation of the means of perfection in this age of Kali was required. So that's the congregational chanting of the holy name, just as we were doing. Exactly that. Exactly that. So Krishna considered, I could send a representative, or I can empower someone, or I can come myself. Nothing better than to become myself. So Krishna came. This is the explanation of who is Lord Chaitanya, is Krishna himself in the complexion of Radha and the mood of Radha. What's the mood of Radha? To serve the master. She's the Shakti and he's the Shaktiman. So she, Radha, simply wants to please Krishna. So to teach the way of devotional service is to teach the way of Srimati Radharani. The expansion of Bhakti Shakti comes from her. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Krishna himself. There's a very nice verse. I could recite this Sanskrit, but Radha Krishna Pranaya Vikriti Ladini Shakti Asmat Eka Atma Ekatmanav Apibhuvi Deha Beda Gatautau. Eternally, that one entity, Eka, is manifested in two forms, Radha Krishna. One entity, sun and sunshine. There's a distinction, but there's a oneness also. Sun and sunshine. You won't find sunshine without sun. You won't find sun without sunshine. They're inseparable. Radha and Krishna are inseparable. They're eternally one. And then the other half is that eternally one became two. Well, the eternally two became one. In the mood, the complexion of Radha and the bhava of Radha. Radha bhava duti suvalitam. Krishna naumi sarupam. Krishna himself in the duty, the complexion of Radha, so his golden complexion, Gauranga, his angas were Gauranga, or Gora Hari, is the personality of Godhead with a golden complexion, and also the mood, the bhava of Radha. And when he came, he did multiple things, but one of the multiple things he did was he gave this, what we're just doing, Sankirtan. There's Kirtan and there's Sankirtan. Sankirtan is together. Congregational chanting of the holy name. Nama Sankirtan. Nama Sankirtan. Yuga Dharma. Primary means of awakening what we have forgotten. What is it that we have forgotten? Our eternal relationship with the personality of Godhead. You just sat in a place that's right in front of our host, so he had to move because you sat right in front of him. So get a little bit lower, so you're not in front of him. Be respectful. I'm trying to allow me to train this young man to be respectful. Be conscious of what you're doing and how it may impact others, please. He's been around a long time, and we know each other a long time, so I can instruct him like this. It's okay. He needs some little instruction every now and then. So he brought the Yuga Dharma. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu brought the Yuga Dharma, and he also gave teachings that are suited for this age. And unlike some of the other personalities that give teachings, he didn't write those teachings. He spoke them. And he spoke them to personalities who he then empowered in 3 ways: understand everything, remember everything, and write everything. He empowered them to comprehensively understand the entire message of the Vedas, suited for this age, and then to write it down for us, for the rest of this age of Kali, the age of quarrel. You've noticed there's some quarrel going on in the world. It's the age of quarrel. Kali, quarrel, and hypocrisy. Both. So, teachings that are appropriate for this age, same teachings as are found in Bhagavad Gita. Same teachings. Same teachings, not different teachings. Same ancient. It's as old as the Vedas. That's as old as you can get. It's eternal. But he didn't write it. He instructed others to write it. And of those who he instructed to write, there were 6 very special, prominent personalities called the Goswamis, 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan. How many here have been to Vrindavan? Oh, good. Those of you that haven't gone yet, please go. Blessings, please go. And when you go where you're with people that know what's what. They know, where's Govardhan Hill and where's Radharaman Temple and where's this and where's that. Go with a guide, someone that knows what's what. And one of the places that you'll visit is the place of residences of those 6 Goswamis in Vrindavan, because they didn't. One of those 6 is now back to why I wanted to speak about someone who I from early days I looked up to, and I'm still looking up to him. He's an amazing person. Jiva Goswami. Jiva Goswami was the youngest of the 6, and he was the most prolific amongst the 6, and most scholarly amongst the 6. So scholarly, I'll just give you a little example. So scholarly that the eldest, the senior most of those 6 Goswamis, his name was Sanatana Goswami. Sanatana Goswami wrote a commentary on the 10th canto Bhagavatam, gave the transcript, the manuscript to Jiva, and asked Jiva, please edit it. No, he doesn't need an editor, but Jiva Goswami is a super scholar, and so please edit it. So and in service, you don't need an editor, but because you're giving me some. So he wrote a commentary on the commentary, along with whatever else he may have said in his editing and giving the manuscript back to Sanatana Goswami, the eldest. And then Jiva Goswami is such a literary person that he wrote, that was one of 4, and he wrote 3 other commentaries on the Bhagavatam. One of those was, as Prabhupada did, verse by verse, for the entire Bhagavatam, called Krama Sandarbha. Krama means step. Krama Sandarbha. Every verse. Then another was Gopal Champu. And then it has two parts, Krishna in Vrindavan, Krishna out of Vrindavan. He's such a scholar, he wrote a book on how to write a champu, and then he wrote a champu. Gopal Champu. He wrote a few other champus also. And then another is Sandarbhas. And that's when I went, so that was on the screen that's here, is What is Happiness? He, there are, this is topic by topic, kind of a commentary. So I selected 6 topics, and the 6th of the 6 topics is called Priti Sandarbha. Here's the names of the 6. Tattva Sandarbha. Tattva means truth. Tattva Sandarbha. Then Paramatma Sandarbha, Bhakti Sandarbha, Bhagavat Sandarbha. Then there's Priti Sandarbha. Priti means affection. Like a very common lady's name, girl's name. Priti. Priti Sandarbha. A treatise on affection in relation to the Supreme. Because there's affection without the Supreme, and there's affection with the Supreme. So it's the highest stage of perfection of affection in relation to the Supreme. That's this 6th Sandarbha. So here's the first verse. All of this is background to say this one sentence. Jiva Goswami's first line, introduction to the Priti Sandarbha, paraphrased is like this. Without exception, every living entity wants 2 things. They want happiness, and they want to diminish the misery of material experience. Without exception. Doesn't even matter what species. They want happiness and the reduction of misery. And then that's the first, second sentence is the perfection of happiness. This is the topic. The perfection of happiness and the perfection of elimination of suffering in this world is only possible when that intention is reposed upon this Bhagavan, the personality of Godhead, and not otherwise. And then the rest of Priti Sandarbha is expanding on that assertion. It comes at the very, very beginning. So, what's real happiness? That's what real happiness is. You know, loving every living entity. He didn't write this, but one can say, without exception, everyone wants to love and be loved. It's an emotion. And it takes 2 for a relationship of love. To the object, and then it goes into grammar, subject and object, and then verb. And adjectives and adverbs and other parts of grammar, but it's subject, object. The subject is us wanting to love, and then the loving object is the Supreme. So that aspiration of living entities for happiness of love, but happiness is repose that aspiration for happiness upon the Supreme, upon Bhagavan. Then it's necessary to know what the Supreme, because not everybody, different people have different ideas. And so to put a label on the Supreme, then it requires some adjectives. And that's Bhagavat Sandarbha. Bhagavan. Who is Bhagavan? And there's a whole Sandarbha on who is Bhagavan. And then we're posing the desire for happiness upon Bhagavan. That's what real happiness is. Now, making this presentation to audiences, I'm speaking this way because of this audience. And I wouldn't speak this way, to a college audience and new people. I don't go through all what I just went through with all of you. because you're senior persons looking around the room. And to college audiences, I show this slide. And some of you may not know what this represents. It's a movie called Matrix. And, somebody in a black cloak, kind of concealed person, they want to know something. And then this deep resounding voice says, do you want reality or do you want delusion? There's these two pills. And everyone, of course, is going to say, we want reality. We don't want illusion. Enough of that stuff. We want reality. So that's Matrix. That's what this image says to younger audiences. Maybe people know what Matrix is also. So this is the reality pill. The reality pill starts with something that's from Bhagavad Gita. And here's a series of triangles. And body, mind, and intellect are three of those external triangles, and then the internal one is the spiritual, which is a way of saying spiritual animates matter. Spirit moves matter. Without spirit, matter doesn't move. There's a whole discussion on that topic. I won't go there. But if on the car ride on the way over here, there was a discussion. Paramarupa was having a discussion. His advisor at Brandeis had a discussion for next semester at Brandeis, a dedication to where spirituality and science intersect. Is there an overlap? You can't prove God or can't prove the soul through science, but there's evidence, compelling evidence, so we're not going to do that right now, but there's compelling evidence that indicates there is such a thing. As that which you can't see, science has a lot of information about atoms, although no one has seen one. They have a lot of information about electrons, no one has seen one. But stick your fingers in the electric outlet and you'll experience electricity. The place where I'm going after here is Edison, New Jersey. It's called Edison because Thomas Alvan Edison discovered light bulbs using electricity and, this and that. And they have a little monument to Thomas Alvan Edison for the place where he discovered. So, although he never saw an electron, but electrons can do stuff. These days, it's a better way to get around by electric cars than by gas cars for different reasons. So, electricity is something we can't see, but we know it exists. It's and so forth. So, who has seen a mind? We see bodies. And we don't see the intellect either, but we know that there is some. At least most people have some. Some is distorted, but there's something. So the function we'll see in a moment. There's a verse from Bhagavad Gita that describes each of these and how they interplay with one another. But at the heart of it all, there's spirit. Spirit animates matter. The body is matter. The mind is matter. The intellect is matter. And spirit intellects. And the difference between a living body and a dead body is there's no spirit. And therefore, bodies are dull. Now, here we are, alive, and we're going through life. And sometimes people find, more and more and more so, people find life is difficult. I mean, it's not like life is more difficult today than it was before, but there's a lot of emotion and conversation about how life is difficult. So how do we learn to be happy? There's the material idea of happiness, and there's a spiritual idea of happiness. Here's the material idea. It's based upon this diagram, or artist rendering, is a painting of Maya. Maya is a Sanskrit word with two syllables, ma and ya. Ma means not, and ya means this. It's not this. We read this verse just the other day at Pramarupa's home, a verse spoken by Prahlad Maharaj to his classmates. This is Canto 7, Chapter 7, Bhagavatam, where he learned in the womb from hearing from Narada when his mother was pregnant. He heard he had the message of bhakti. And one of the messages of bhakti is to understand what the spirit soul isn't. So there's discussion of the neti process. It's very similar. Na, iti, neti. What spirit? Well, it's not this, it's not this, it's not this, it's not this. By process of elimination, you can understand what it's not. Then what is it? Well, it's not this. Definition by negation is incomplete. That's what it isn't. Then what is it? So Maya, this image that's on the screen, this is a force, Maya Shakti. She's a energy, but she's personified energy of the personality of Godhead, meant specifically to delude people. And that's the illusion pill. To accept that which isn't as that which is, and according to the three modes of nature, with presiding deities indicated in the artwork here: goodness, passion, ignorance. And presiding deities of each of those three modes, and she works through them. The three modes of nature are instruments of Maya. So people can accept that which isn't to be that which is, all reality. And then including happiness. What's happiness? That's our topic. What's real happiness? So that which is not real happiness is accepted as happiness. And then people become addicted to the unhappiness, thinking it's happiness. Here's a couple of examples. For example, alcohol or cigarettes, which people can become addicted to. People can become alcoholic, or people can become addicted to cigarettes. Now, in this country, it's not as easy to do that in this country, because there's many places in the public you can't smoke. It's against the law. You'll be arrested. And therefore, you have to go outside the airport to smoke, and you have certain designated places. But some people, that's where they go, to that place outside, even though they know it says on the cigarette packets can be hazardous to your health, which is a nice way of saying you'll kill yourself if you take this thing. And it's by law, and people do it anyways. A child doesn't grow up learning to smoke, or a child doesn't grow up learning to drink alcohol. But some people become addicted because mode of ignorance has an addiction hook in it. And one thinks it's happiness, and I can't live without it. That's an example. That's Maya. That which is not. Happiness, which is not. And it's in the mode of ignorance. And then you can go up, and that's a little less dark, and it's the mode of passion. Then it's get stuff. Get money so you can get stuff so you can be happy. And people that have stuff, are they the happiest people? No. Without going into it, the affluence has gone way up, and anxiety disorders, the CDC has statistics that shows, this is a graph, it goes like this. Reported cases of chronic depression. It's not because there's a lack of stuff. That's not the reason. It's that the happiness didn't happen. I was expecting happiness, exactly as it says in Bhagavad Gita. Exactly as it says in Bhagavad Gita. Yehi samsparsha ja bhoga dukkha yonaya evate. The verse. Sukha, I was expecting sukha, and instead I got a punch in the nose. distress, dukkha. And the yoni, the place of birth of that dukkha, is the expectation for happiness. Samsparsha ja. Samsparsha ja. The ja, like Janmashtami, the place of the place of birth of distress, the yoni, that's the expectation of happiness, where senses contact sense objects, and that's where distress begins. Welcome. You wanted happiness? Mode of passion kind? Go for it. Here it is. Here's the display of the opportunities for happiness. Is that happiness? No, the anxiety disorders have increased and increased in depression. One of the reasons I'm here in Boston, there's several reasons, but one of those reasons is the university is in Boston. Because once upon a time I was a college kid, and Prabhupada came to he came to the university where I was an undergraduate student, and he just conducted a very simple program with Allen Ginsberg, and they did kirtan just as you all were doing. And making a long story short, I didn't know who he was. I didn't know anything about anything. I was just a college kid going from one side of the student union to the other side, looking to go to visit a friend that lived on the other side in a dorm. So my life changed. I mean, not instantly, but the doors were opened after that. Lava matra sadhu sangha sarva siddhi hoy. Sarva siddhi. All perfections can come from even lava matra, a moment's association with the sadhu. So my life changed, and I felt, wow, my life has changed because of that association. What can I do to assist that person who changed my life? And he risked his life to change my life. Mr. Nobody off in some faraway land. I felt it. I had to do something. So the something is continuing. This is why I'm here in Boston. One of the reasons why I'm here. Because there's universities in Boston, and I feel a sense of deep sense of gratitude, prolonged sense of gratitude. And it's different than Maya. It's different than the illusory feature of happiness. Then go up a little bit, the mode of goodness. That was the mode of passion, mode of ignorance, mode of passion, mode of goodness, happiness. That's our topic. What is happiness? So mode of goodness, happiness is, it's good. It's good. You know, the list of characteristics of mode of goodness, happiness is found right in Bhagavad Gita. The symptoms of those in the mode of goodness. They're truthful, they're clean, they're respectful. All the good, the mode of good, compassionate. You do things for the benefit of others. You sacrifice for the benefit of others. You know, in different ways. Generally speaking, the mode of goodness, act of kindness, is on the physical or the emotional platform. It's still on the material platform. So the difference is that spiritual happiness is on the spiritual platform. So how do you get to the spiritual platform? Association with those that are on the spiritual platform. This is Lavamatra Sadhu Sangha Sarva Siddhi Hoy verse. So finding happiness, this is another one of the subtitles. You know, the worldly, maybe you've heard this phrase before, eat, drink, and be merry, for tomorrow you may die. Because how long is it going to last? So have fun. Eat, drink, and be merry. And then it's over. And then what? Well, it's over. There's no then what, it's over. This was our discussion at Brandeis. Is there such a thing? Is there scientific evidence to verify that there's life after death? And we had some interesting discussions on that topic. But, you know, it's a no-brainer for most people, for many people, all the people in the room, I would assume. There's a soul. And the soul is eternal. The soul doesn't die. Nahanyate hanyamane shirire. The body is going to perish, that's for sure. But the soul doesn't perish. So where does the soul go after this life? That's a nice question. It depends on what you do in this life is depending where you go in this life, the next life. Even in this life, it's true, as bodies are changing in this life. From babyhood, komaran acharet pragyo dharman bhagavataniha. So the different stages of life transform. Hare Krishna. The baby body, you know, it's easy. The baby body we once had, it's gone. Science tells us, this is another item for what science says. According to medical science, every 7 years, all the cells in the body change. So this is something I say to college students. You know, many of you are around the age of 21. That means you've already had 3 different bodies. Completely 100% different bodies. But you're still here. So what's that you that's still here? Soul. And then continue. So we're changing bodies moment to moment. And then what? You know, it depends on, so mode of goodness is do good things so that urdvam gacchati sattvasta. Urdvam, you go upwards if you're situated in the mode of goodness. In this life, in material life, or in the heavenly realm. There's a byproduct, but Purnarjanma is guaranteed in the mode of goodness. Another birth, guaranteed. And that's not what's wanted, another birth. Here's some verses this is from Canto 11, Chapter 8. This is a nice section of the Srimad Bhagavatam where Krishna is speaking to Uddhava. As Krishna spoke to Arjuna in Bhagavad Gita, he's speaking to Uddhava, another cousin and dear devotee in Dwarka. A conditioned soul undergoes great trouble to obtain a little happiness. After struggling in material life, which is full of hardship and hypocrisy, one may receive a little sense gratification, but this illusory pleasure in no way offsets the burden of suffering one must bear to obtain it. There's many things to say. I'll give one little thing. In his backyard, and I'm staying in his home, in his backyard, there's kind of like a forested area back there. You know, there's lots of forested areas all over this part of the country. There's homes. And then, so, in that forested area, there's a stone fence. Somebody years ago took stones and made a fence. Have you noticed that? I learned about that when I was a kid because my father also liked stone fences because he had some outdoorsy side to him. So it goes and it goes and it goes, and somebody spent a lot of time building a stone fence, gathering up the stones and piling them up, and you know, and then everything else that this house, it was in a place that was just forest, probably at one point in time, and now it's like nice and comfortable. There's nothing wrong with nice and comfortable, but a lot of work. somebody, whoever built this house and cleared the land and did the whole thing. It's a lot of work. And then what keeps one going is that carrot that's at the end. Happiness. It no way offsets the labor that one undergoes. And then supposing you get some happiness, is it sufficient? Well, the greed of consumerism says it's never sufficient, because whatever one has, it just increases the appetite to have more. There are statistics, as you well aware, in environmentalism, that the people that live in the United States consume, if everyone in the world consumed what the people in the United States consume, we would need 3.5 worlds. But we don't. We have one. And so that's a problem. It's, lust, anger, and greed. Kam, Krodh, Lob. It's just, it's in the heart. And so it just happens. And the difficulty is, again, we have only one planet. So try to encourage people to be environmentally friendly. It's still irreplaceable resources. And, what's a big commotion over oil, and what's going to happen when the oil's gone? Then it's, anyway, it doesn't take a big brain to figure out we're living a life of self-destruct, and that's happiness. So here's a nice drawing. This, you see the sword at the bottom. Here's what the Bhagavatam says. Same section, Uddhava is hearing from Krishna. The network of material desires is created when one falsely thinks that he can establish himself permanently in the material world. This binding network should be cut with the sword of detachment. That's the sword at the bottom. Otherwise, we'll be forced to wander in the illusory network of Maya with no understanding of liberated life on the spiritual platform. So detachment, so the sword of detachment. It doesn't mean kill it. It just means detachment. That's a delicate concept and delicate way to lead one's life. It's the way that Vaishnavas are encouraged to lead their life. A life where you utilize things without becoming enamored by and attached to, instead detached from things, stuff. And then the fruits of labor, so karma yoga is a little sharing. It's a from my experience of interacting with college kids, a lot of whom are, these days at least, non-resident Indians that attend our universities in America. They know what karma yoga is, and they don't understand the distinction between karma yoga and bhakti yoga, because it's a little subtle. But they just, this equals that, and that equals this. They don't make any distinction. But there is an important distinction besides detachment, because karma yoga is teaching detachment. Everyone knows the verse. Many college students recite the verse. Karmani eva nikaraste ma paleshu kadachana. Ma, same word, not. Pala. You're not entitled to the pala of your karma. You perform your karma, you're entitled. But you're not entitled to the pala. If you're not entitled to the pala, what are you supposed to do with the pala? The fruit of your work. You offer to Vishnu. That's karma yoga. The purpose is not suffering from due to attachment, but learn not to suffer by detachment. It's not bhakti. It's just, I don't want to suffer. I want to suffer less, at least. So I'm going to work, do my duty. There are different ways of saying the same thing. Do my prescribed duty, but without attachment. Easier said than done, but that's what karma yoga is. So bhakti is a little bit higher than karma yoga. Here's a similar, related, but different verse from Bhagavad Gita, chapter 5. An intelligent person does not take part in the sources of misery, which are due to contact with the material senses. That's samsparsha jabhoga. Such pleasures have a beginning and end. And so the wise man does not delight in them. The pleasures have a beginning and an end. They're limited and temporary, both limited and temporary. So a wise man doesn't take part in them. If you don't take part in them, what are you supposed to do? We're reading in morning class tomorrow morning and the other morning, chapter 7 from Canto 7. Chapter 7 is Prahlad's answer to his classmates. Hey, Prahlad, where'd you learn all this? Vishnu Bhakti. And he said, I learned from Narada. They said, how'd you learn from Narada? We're with our parents during the daytime or during the morning and evening, and then with their teachers, Shanda and Amarka. How'd you learn from Narada? Did you sneak out? Where'd you find Narada? And then he explained, I learned when I was in the womb of my mother. I just didn't forget, and my mother forgot. But I didn't forget. That's where I learned. So this is one of the things that he learned. Listen, it's really very simple. One is happy as long as one does not endeavor for happiness. As soon as one begins his activities for happiness, this is material, his condition of distress begins. So, we exist in happiness. It's already there. On the soul platform, that's already there. This is the teaching of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu because it's a teaching of Srimad Bhagavatam. Not only Nitya, this is a verse from Chaitanya Charitamrita. Say it slowly. Nitya Siddha Krishna Prema Sadhya Kabunoi. Sadhya means the goal, the sadhana, the sadhya. Nitya Siddha Krishna Prema Sadhya Kabunoi. And it's already situated within. Shravanadi Shuddha Chitte Karaye Udoi. So it's already there. Not only the soul is there, the happiness is there, but Krishna Prema is there, but covered. And because Krishna Prema is covered by Maya, we're taking something that's not to be what happiness is. And so happiness is already there, and as soon as you begin searching for happiness somewhere out there, because that's what happiness is, it's out there, right? I have to get some of this or some of that, and get rid of some of that other stuff, because that's unhappiness. So that's where distress begins. Conditions of distress begin. It's the breeding ground for disease. It's like, sterilizing something to get rid of bacteria or things that can cause infection. So you make things, the United Airlines these days, they give these little infection wipes. What do you call those? Sanitary something packs. Yes, thank you. Just because, the person that was there, who knows what they were eating and doing, and, if what disease they were carrying. So you clean the place. At least some protection. But distress begins, the breeding ground for distress is this anticipation of happiness by bringing the senses in contact with sense objects, endeavoring for happiness, that material happiness. But by nature, material happiness mandates renunciation of enjoyment. Supposing somebody likes ice cream. Kids like ice cream, generally. So, how much ice cream? And after a certain amount of time, it becomes repulsive. You can't keep eating ice cream. By nature, material enjoyment mandates renunciation of enjoyment. That's a fire. It's another verse in Bhagavad Gita. Passion is never satisfied but burns like fire. So material happiness is like that. Here's a nice lady. She has a bird in a bird cage, and she has a nice bird cage, but she's so attached to the bird cage that she neglects the bird inside, and the bird can die by neglect. So similarly, the body is encased within the body as a soul. There's the deha and there's the dehi. There's the body and the occupier of the body. So we don't just take, it's advised in Bhagavad Gita and in spiritual life in general, don't just take care of the body or the mind or the coverings. Make sure you take care of the soul within. And at a certain point in time, it's time to get out. This is a little cartoon. This is death coming to the door, ring the bell. The lady comes to the door, yes, sir. It's time, time's come. And so she's saying to her husband, he says, we're out of any time minutes. We don't know when. At any time, that's when. We don't know when. Every one of us, there's no exception. Everything that's born, death is certain. Again, that which dies, again, birth is certain. It's just the cycle of time. And so what are we doing about it? Well, the advocacy of this whole presentation is to pursue spiritual happiness. The purpose of life is to pursue spiritual happiness, and then comes the necessity of describing what spiritual happiness is. Material desire is undoubtedly the cause of the greatest unhappiness, and freedom from such desire is the cause of the greatest happiness. There's the bird in the cage, and there's the bird flying from the cage because somebody left the cage open. And there he goes, heading for Krishna, because that's the standard of what real happiness is. If you have the good fortune of getting released from the cage and get the good fortune of heading towards Krishna. These are the teachings of spiritual life. Here's chapter 5, Bhagavad Gita. A liberated person is not attracted to material sense pleasure, but is always in trance, enjoying the spiritual pleasure within. In this way, the self-realized person enjoys unlimited happiness, for he concentrates on the Supreme. That's the happiness that's already within, that just needs to be reawakened. And so this is, the image is depicting meditation, but mantra meditation is the means for this age, as described earlier. Very simple. Anyone can do. A child can do. You can engage, you have small children, engage small children in kirtan, clapping, and they may not understand what it is. But the sound vibration, just like Prahlad, he was in the womb of his mother, and he heard spiritual sound vibration from Narada, and it had an impact, a very prominent impact. Not every child that's in a mother's womb and the mother is hearing spiritual sound becomes Prahlad. But this purification takes place according to how much covering the soul may have had. And then so little by little by little. That's what parenting is a fundamental function of parenting, is provide spiritual sound and spiritual activity. Here's another nice verse from chapter 6, and we're almost done. See the self by the pure mind. This is purport. This is Krishna speaking. See the self by the pure mind, and relish and rejoice in the self, in that joyous state when is situated in boundless transcendental happiness, realized through transcendental senses. Established thus, one never departs from the truth, and upon gaining this, he thinks there's no greater gain. Being situated in such a position, one is never shaken, even in the midst of greatest difficulty. This, indeed, is actual freedom from all miseries arising from material contact. Back again to Jiva Goswami and Priti Sandarbha. We'll say it again. It's nice. Without exception, everyone wants happiness and diminishing of misery or suffering. Without exception. And the only way to achieve that in its perfect stage is when that tendency is reposed upon the Supreme, or Bhagavan. So that's what's being described here. And it's already there. We don't have to go somewhere else outside of our own hearts to find it. And as Krishna said to Arjuna in Bhagavad Gita, closing remarks, I've expressed the whole thing to you, Arjuna. Please consider, deliberate on this fully, and do what you feel you wish to do. So each of us, in the course of our life, there's some persons a little bit younger, there's many persons in the middle of their life, and some persons towards the end of their life. And we're at different stages on the timeline. But we're all making choices. And the choices we make best if they align with transcendence, or the sound vibration that Krishna is presenting in Bhagavad Gita, or the sound vibration that's found in the Srimad Bhagavatam, the teachings about Krishna and the avatars of Krishna. I'm pausing because I'm thinking of there's a particular section in Canto 11, Srimad Bhagavatam. It's a very nice section where Narada Muni pays a visit to Krishna's father's palace. Krishna's father's name? Vasudeva. So Vasudeva receives him because Vasudeva's a king. Narada is a brahmana, so receives him very nicely. This and that and the other, the proper reception. Then he seats him on a nice seat and then asks questions. It's one simple question and the rest is 5 chapters of an answer. The simple question is, I understand the importance of pleasing the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Can you describe the ways in which the Personality of Godhead is pleased? Very simple question. A natural question to ask a sadhu. So Narada says, you've rightly spoken. He just very quick. You've spoken correctly. Bhakti, pleasing the Personality of Godhead through loving service, is the most important thing one can do in life. And you want to know the ways in which that can be done? Let me answer this by referring to a historical event. In the Ikshvaku dynasty, there was one king named Nimi. And Nimi, during a different yuga, he was performing a big yajna. And when he was performing this big yajna, 9 of the 100 sons of Rishabdev came. They just floated in. They, like Narada, he doesn't need an airplane. So they came where the yajna was going on. And he stopped the yajna. You don't stop yajnas once you start. He stopped. Because this is the exception to the rule, because here comes these 9 great sages. So he started asking 9 questions of these 9 great sages, and one of those 9 questions was the following. Could you describe the incarnations of the forms of the Lord in the past, present, and future? That's a big question. All 4 yugas. And so he gets the answer from one of the 9 Nava-yogendras, they're called. Great sages. So there's a very nice section, including describing in the future who the avatar, it's right in the Bhagavatam, Canto 11, Chapter 3. If you have a Bhagavatam in your home, you can look it up later. It describes Lord Chaitanya. It doesn't give his name, but it gives his qualities and characteristics and what he's going to do. And present the Yuga Dharma. And then specific verses, or there are sections of the verse. It's really nice. Everything is there in the Srimad Bhagavatam. So, as Krishna says to Arjuna, please consider and do what you feel you must do. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is doing the same. The Yuga Dharma is for everybody. Please take advantage. Of course, people may not. They may say, no, thank you, or let me think about it. But happiness, back to what is real happiness, it's precisely that. It's engaging in activities in relation to the Supreme and dedicating ourselves towards that particular happiness. This Hare Krishna mantra, pictured on the screen, is for that purpose also. It's the Yoga Dharma. I'm done. I'm looking around the room and no one has left. And so I'm something good happened, I guess. To whatever degree something beneficial has taken place, it's that the credit goes to the personality of Godhead, also to my spiritual master, who gave these very, very simple teachings, the same Hare Krishna mantra that transformed my life from my university undergraduate days, and and it's continuing to transform. It's one of those things that doesn't stop. The purification and uplifting of the soul continues. Purnarjanma na, according to Krishna's teaching in Bhagavad Gita. By understanding Krishna, no more birth. Purnarjanma na. Anyone want to sign up for that one? And what's that place like? It's not empty. It's a very joyful place. We're at the eternal pastimes of we're being invited to participate with the personality of Godhead, is not just in heaven, but beyond even that kind of happiness, that's mode of goodness happiness, beyond that, the transcendental happiness of the soul. It's a big invitation. And there's some sacrifices we have to let go of the attachment to the temporary. Not let go of the temporary, just the attachment to the temporary. Instead, see the attachment to the Supreme. That's our life. It doesn't matter what ashram. It doesn't matter the color of one's cloth. It's consciousness. Restoring our original consciousness in a natural way. So let's see if there's some. We'll go back to the beginning slide. Here we go. Any comments or questions? You got a squeaky door. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for the beautiful pravachana on happiness. So my question is, I have 2 kids, and when I was reading somewhere that that happiness is within. So I tell my children, you have to practice to be happy. But then I read a shloka here that in Srimad Bhagavatam, that if you try to look for happiness, then lots of as soon as one begins his activities for happiness, his conditions of distress begins.
Yes.
So when that is the case, do we have to use the word happiness or think about happiness, or should we just think about being peaceful?
What is peaceful?
I mean, not
Shanti
being...
is neutral.
Yeah.
Shanti is not happiness.
But if...
It's like you dial it down and down and down and down and down, and it's just...
Yeah.
Shanti.
Yeah.
But happiness is more than Shanti. Shanti is the subset of happiness.
Yes.
Those who are happy, they're feeling peaceful, but more than peaceful.
Yeah. Yeah.
So now that verse that you're referring to is material happiness, not spiritual happiness.
Not spiritual happiness. Like if as a mother, like how do I, when my son is distressed or something, I have a 4th grader, he'll end up fighting with kids or whatever, someone will say something
yeah.
And his older brother will something. And then he'll say, he attends, Chinmaya Satsang and everything. So he says, I'm not sure if I believe in God. If God was real, I wouldn't have all these problems. And, he'll say these things. So I tell him, I don't know, like, if I'm saying the right thing that, so how should I teach about happiness to her?
It depends on your son, depends on you. Depends on the variables. But I don't know your son, so I don't know the best way to answer your son.
Yeah.
But, the two things. Prabhupada's phrase, fan the spark. There's something inside. The fact that he's making reference to God probably came from you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So otherwise, how would he know even to say that, how do I know that God exists? Because I look at all my difficulties. So fan the spark. That is, depending upon the intellect and the nature and the spirit of your son. Different boys are different persons are different. But find that something that you see in him attracts him. And then you fan that spark. This attracts him towards that which is on the spiritual side. Do some of that together with him. And, and then say, how does that feel? So you help, because you're the mother, you have that relationship. Do you feel the presence of God in this happiness of whatever it is that makes him happy? And the fan that this fanning of that spark. Not too much.
Yeah.
Little, because you put the spark out. Not too much. And then another is the intellect, to discriminate between this and that. What is real? Same as this. What is real happiness? Is it that you never stub your toe, or you never just get cold outside, it never gets hot outside? It's always just right. And that's what happiness is. Is that what happiness is? You're a mom, and you discuss with him, what is it? Is it that? Is that this is the neti? It's not this. It's not this. Then what is it? Yeah. So why are we in this? It's a thought provoking. Yeah. Why are we in this situation, anyways? Why is there such a thing as distress? Why is there duality? Because God doesn't exist. Is that the answer? Because God doesn't exist, therefore there's duality. But where's duality? Because we're in the nature of a place that's of duality. And sometimes it's night and sometimes it's day. Sometimes it's Bhagavad Gita chapter 2. Yeah. Matra sparshas, so take him to the Bhagavad Gita. Yeah. Now what do you do when that thing comes that's like, you don't like it? It's too cold, or it's too this or too that. There's honor, dishonor, pleasure, pain. It's temporary. Yeah. And now, if that's temporary, then what's not temporary? Is there such a thing that's not temporary? If you remind me, I'll send you a little TED Talk. Okay. The TED Talk is, you know what TED Talks are. Yeah. So it's an animated TED Talk, and the topic is the persistence of identity expressed by a Greek philosopher named Theseus. Yeah. You know the story? Ship of Theseus?
Actually, my son is very much into Greek.
Okay.
He will tell about Greek gods.
We hit the magic number.
We talk about past. So if anything bad happens, sometimes I tell him, I'm sure we have done a lot of bad things in our past life or in this life. So bad things happen. And, that's how I'm explaining. But
why are we here to begin with? Yeah. And how do we navigate our way through the part we don't like? Yeah. It's just don't do more of the bad stuff, but that's not sufficient because it's a place of duality anyways. Yeah. So, you're the mom and he's a little boy, and ship of Theseus. And it's in persistence of identity. So there's something that's eternal besides, this he didn't treat me nicely, he spoke harshly, or he slapped me, or he, punched me, or something. Why has God created this? So there are ways to help a little boy understand in ways that little boys can understand. Fourth grader with an intellect like your son, he's probably can understand things that a sixth grader could understand. So, your son. It says, you're the light, and he is experiencing degrees of light and darkness, and you want to bring a little bit of light, a little bit more light, not too much, because he'll squint and turn away. Push back. Okay.
Thank you.
You had a second one. Oh, you're over here. Okay.
Hare Krishna Maharaji.
Hi, Krishna.
I have a question. As we learned that happiness is in the spirit, but covered by the Maya.
Yeah.
So is there Maya is all around us. So is there a process?
Everywhere.
Is there a process to cut through Maya?
Yeah.
And get to
Yeah.
the spiritual life?
You got it. The yoga system is meant to achieve that, and then there's layers or stages or steps in the yoga ladder, and according to Bhagavad Gita, the topmost rung on the yoga ladder is bhakti, and it cuts through. Exactly. One can see that, like mom here understands, but son doesn't yet understand, so mom can help son understand. The limited and temporary is limited and temporary. The misery is limited, the happiness is limited, and it's temporary. So there is the eternal. So by directing each one of us, directing consciousness toward the supreme consciousness, that's where there's maximum light. And then not only maximum light, but purnarjanma na. No more involvement in the temporary. And that's what we're meant to do. That's the opportunity the human form of life provides. So each one of us can, ideally, do that. The opportunity is provided. Does that answer your question? Not
Yes,
exactly.
Maharaj. Other than chanting the Mahamantra.
Well, the bhakti. Bhakti, I learned a couple of things. I don't know Sanskrit, but I learned a couple of things from hearing my spiritual master. The dhatu, the root word of bhakti is bhaj, B-H-A-J. And bhaj means service. So it's service with an emotion. The souls have emotion. Then the transcendental emotion is with love. That's bhakti. Bhajatam priti purvakam. Dadami bodhi yogam. So it's service. Along with chanting, each of us serves. You're not an exception. You're serving whoever it is, family members and friends and other people. You're serving. We're all serving, not just you. We're doing constitution of the soul as we serve. And then direct that service towards the supreme, instead of towards the temporary. That doesn't mean to trash the temporary. But the purpose, even in dealing with the temporary, is the supreme. The ideal of, back to this question, the ideal of motherhood is to help the soul connect with the supreme. That's motherhood. It's service to another soul, connecting that other soul with the supreme, and connecting stuff, including the the hurtful stuff. Somebody said something mean, and you're connecting that to the supreme. That's the art of. So that's how to. In addition to along with the chanting, the sound.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Okay. Anybody else out there?
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Maharaj, topic for happiness, right? So especially for the college kids.
Especially for what?
College kids, if we say, okay, you want to be happy, and then we say them, okay, okay, give attention to God, give attention to Supreme.
Yeah.
They say, what? What are you talking about? Because most of them, they are in denial mode. They don't want to listen anything, right? And especially also when you go out for the book distribution, like, if you want a newcomer, hey, if you think about happiness, there the misery starts. So they say, what are you talking about? So how do we tell them, like, such newcomers, rather than directly starting on the topic, hey, pay attention to Supreme?
Well, you have to be audience specific.
Mm.
Book distribution is different than an assembly like this. This is not people that don't know anything about anything. So my recommendation to you is, there are devotees that are very accomplished in book distribution. And one of the key things of helping people accept whatever you're going to say is be happy. And if you're genuinely, not just cosmetically, but genuinely from the inside happy, people feel it. And it's impactful. And then because of that connection, your connection with Super Soul, and appreciating, here's a spirit soul that's packaged differently than me and the rest of the people I'm going to be meeting today. But there's also the Supreme Soul. And so, as much as you are Krishna conscious on the spiritual platform, Super Soul will give you an understanding of what to say in this situation, the next situation. In many cases, there's a common thing that our book distributors say, buzzwords. This is a book that explains meditation and yoga. And people have N number of ideas of what meditation and N number of ideas what yoga is. But they have a vague, superficial idea of what that is. And anything else that you want to say, depending upon the person and what you feel is appropriate for that particular one-to-one exchange with that person. One of the ways, it depends on the situation and the dynamic, but you can start asking questions. And then you find out what they're interested in. Then you fan the spark. What they're interested in. Have you ever thought about, something? It depends on the person. So if you just have like a box, and in the box you have like a set of things that you just say because you just say it's mechanical, that's not compelling. So a relationship, in a short time, establish a relationship with a person that you don't know yet. They don't know you. And you're establishing a relationship that's ultimately connecting to the Supreme. So be tuned in to the person, the situation, and you say something about something. Depends on the person. So without a preset set of things that you say, you don't give them a Bhagavad Gita class when you're distributing a book, because they're not ready for that. Okay? And there are a number of persons your age and of different ages that really like this book distribution. There's challenge, but they really like it. They really like it because they know it's pleasing to Prabhupada and our disciplic succession, and so that's why they do what they do, because it's pleasing. And somehow or another, let me be an instrument of Krishna's mercy to this person that I don't know and they don't know me. And that's the contemplation. And then it becomes meaningful. And you say things that you may be surprised some of the things that you say, inspired by Krishna to say. Okay?
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
I go.
Could you speak a little bit about how to deal with anxiety?
How to deal with anxiety?
It's a little bit personal question in the sense that I'm aware of benefits of spiritual practices, but I'm unable to establish something which is regular.
Well, for your information and everybody else, one of the, generally speaking, when I visit universities, there's a little session where, what's the topic? So many cases I give like a little list, and now I've developed like 20, 25 different topics I can speak about. And number one is this one. They pick from the menu. So it's a popular one. Misery loves company, right? So it's popular. How to deal with it. Because it's pervasive. In many levels. The principle, the Bhagavad Gita principle is, you personally, each one of us personally, try to make a connection that gives us an experience of the presence of Krishna. You turn on the light and make the light brighter and brighter, and the darkness goes away. Anxiety is a darkness. It's something unwanted. So then this question over here, bhakti, you engage in service to address the anxiety question. You situate yourself in such a way that they're persons who in your life you look up to. I use that example, role model, or I'm a fan of Jiva Goswami. So find persons that have to be like Acharya-like, but just persons who you look up to, and meditate on what it is about them that you have some appreciation for, and try to do something that's pleasing to them. This is bhakti. This is service. Bhaj. Find out what their mood and mission is, and do something that assists them in their mood and their mission. And then there goes the light, and the darkness. The other is diminished by turning on the light and turning it like a dimmer switch. It's not a 1 or 0. It's a increase by the medium of loving service to those who are wholesome, quality people in your life, and amplify that as a means of not just getting away from the anxiety, but it gets away. The darkness is dissipated by light. It's a principle. Param drishtva nivartate. You know Bhagavad Gita. You've been around for a while. Vishaya vinivartante niraharsya dehinam. Raso varjam rasopyasya. Param drishtva nivartate. So there's an anxiety or an unhappiness or distress that comes from expecting vishaya, expecting happiness by contact of the sense object with senses. So that's where the anxiety comes from, because it doesn't bring the happiness. I'm expecting, I want, and it's not happening. So go in the other direction. By higher taste. What's the higher taste? That's what I was saying. That some persons that are render service, who is who we are, to Krishna, or those that remind you of Krishna, or those that you look up to because they have good qualities and good character consistently. And I want to be like that. So serve those persons in the mission of those persons, and that's bhakti. And so that's not the only thing. There are different things, but I'm focusing on one thing at a time, at least. Service to higher persons of higher consciousness, and then comes the other, the unwanted. You know the teachings of Rupa Goswami, yes? Basic idea? from bhakti, because that's I've been speaking about it. What's the consequence of bhakti? Anarchana vritti. So bhakti begins by association, by faith and association with those that are carrying bhakti, and then you do bhakti activities with those that have that faith. Bhajana kriya. So do bhajana kriya. Do what we just did earlier and what we're doing now. And then anarchana vritti. Anartha is things unwanted, like this anxiety thing and other things. Greed, lust, anger, etc. Unwanted things become diminished by the same principle, turning the light on and making it brighter. And now you're moving closer towards who you really are and away from who you really aren't. And then there's further stages, but those are stages of bhakti that unfold from the very simple. So then another recommendation, another way of saying the same thing, go back to basics. You've been around when we came in. Paramarupa was saying, you're a Northeastern graduate. Yes? So you've been to his sessions in the past. So you have some basic understanding. And then a plus. What else you've done since then? Back to basics. When you're feeling feelings like this, step back. Mode of goodness. Pause. What's the purpose of life? This isn't this other is not the purpose. What's the purpose? Why am I here? Really fundamental questions. And then you do the same things that you did to start getting to the stage where at least you're here instead of in La La Land, out and not knowing anything about anything. So you go back to basics. So you go to your Bhagavad Gita and you go to hearing recordings and seminars on. There are courses that instruct on how to deal with anxiety from those that from a spiritual perspective. And if you don't know where those resources are, ask. He'll be a good one to tell you where those resources are. And then you do some of that. It's the same principle, the back to basics principle. And then something that you hear makes a lot of sense. And then you do some of that. That's light. And you increasing the light, and the darkness is diminishing. In course of time, by spiritual elevation, that anxiety thing is just part of the material world. It's like it diminishes in its significance. There's something, and you're aware that there's something. It's cold out in the winter time.
Thank you.
You tolerate it. Knowing that there's something that's temporary is beyond this, is something permanent. And your attention goes to the permanent. And the gravity, the way that weighs on your emotions diminishes, although it is what it is. By spiritual elevation, by elevation of consciousness.
Thank you.
Okay. Yes, we have one last question over here.
Maharaj, as I'm walking through the process of purification and bhakti, and I understand more about real happiness, I feel when I see near and dear ones, and with my limited capacity of where they're heading, I feel very scared and actually probably anxious. So the question is that, well, I end up doing probably 10 things to build a relationship or make a relationship stronger with that person, so that I can do something, but I end up not knowing what is the right thing to do for somebody else, and what is the right way to help somebody very near and dear.
Okay, when you run into that what to do, that's the question, yes? What to do when you hit that wall? That's your question?
And what is a real help or
Well, you know the answer to that one. Reviving of Krishna consciousness, restoring the original consciousness of the living entity. That's when that real consciousness is there, your worry is gone. And their difficulty is also gone. It's because someone's looking after them. So discerning what particular path or what particular words or what particular actions or something, what can I do to help with the situation? To be in the mood of service, fantastic. Then comes detachment. I'm not making their decisions. They're making their decisions. I can't get in their head or their heart and make their decisions, because even I don't know the best. So therefore, let me let go of the idea of I'm the rescuer.
Mm.
And I'm going to fix the problem because I'm the rescuer. This is the drama triangle topic.
Mm.
So instead, let me render some service to my capacity, and then to my capacity as my limited, I'm not seeing with 20/20 vision, but what I can see, this is something I can see. So let me do some of this, just like her question about her son. So then something that's meaningful, and hopefully you'll touch the heart. And when you touch the heart, then you're in a position to be super soul can give you the understanding of what's the best thing, next thing. It's quite fluid. And without it, you're the well-wisher, but they're making decisions. And be with you provide resources for this person that you wish well for.
Mm. Thank you. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Hare. Yes.